Howdy folks, it's Greg here again on the Blue Feather Ephemera channel, and I have an eBay store where I sell vintage magazine print advertising, and every week I put together a video to show you what's sold in my eBay store. This past week I sold 20 ads for a total of $287.40, and we'll take a look at those. Also, every week we look at a bonus topic, and this week we're going to talk about where you can find great vintage magazines that you can source ads from for your eBay store. So we'll do that at the end. So right now, let's take a look at those ads. All right, here I'll show you the first ad that we have to talk about. But before we do that, let's discuss the elephant in the room, which is last week's sales. And if you recall, last week I had total sales gross of about $90, $95, somewhere in that ballpark. And this week I'm back up to $287. So here's what I did. 2 weeks ago I told you I had some sales ending. Last week I told you that I had picked out a few certain specific SKUs to put on sale for 30% off. And I did explain how I determined that those were some of the earliest ads that I had up for sale in my store. But uh, the main reason I did that was not to try to boost sales or to clear out those SKUs that had been around for a while. The main reason was so that I could learn the mechanics of doing SKU specific sales through eBay. And it was easy, it was simple. I do plan to talk about it and demonstrate it at some point in the future. That will be a bonus topic. But after the dismal sales of last week, I thought, well, I've got to make sure that I do my end and sell similar twice a week like I had been doing. Because if you'll recall, I said that I did it at the start of the week, and over the weekend, I was thinking, how bad can sales get? I'm not going to end sell similar. And I don't know if that contributed to the low sales numbers over the weekend and then the early part of last week. However, I didn't want to have a repeat for whatever reason. So I did do end and sell similar twice this week with a total of 1,600 store listings in 2 different days. And then I also applied a new coupon. And on the top of this screen, you can see it there. The coupon code is Blue Harvest 10. And basically, I just tied it in with a Harvest Great Savings theme. And in my store, I put a nice, colorful harvest type graphic in there because people, I mean, we're in the dog days of summer. The next thing up is going to be fall and harvest and pumpkins and everything else. So people that are thinking about decorating for that period of time, something like that may catch their eye right here during this time of the year. And so that's why I went with the harvest theme. Right here's the first ad to look at, a 1977 Cadillac Eldorado on a coastal highway. And this is kind of a unique ad because half is black and white and half is the accentuating the tan color interior. So it's a unique looking ad. And on the left side there, you see the car on the coastal highway, and you see the couple going in from a ride in this luxury interior. So a real nice looking ad. And $23.77 was the price that this fetched. And it came from Classic Magazine, 1977. It's on its way to Connecticut. This second ad is for French's Mustard. It appeared in Woman's Home Companion, 1936. And this is an ad for a free Beetleware Hot Dan mustard spoon. And notice there that I mentioned that the company is located in Rochester, New York. We'll get back to that. In the primary listing photo, I used the bottom third of the ad because it had the best image of this mustard spoon and its offer. Here is the whole listing, and there's different panels here talking about how she made the meal taste zesty and zingy for her husband here and how he appreciated her efforts in the kitchen. But just a basic mustard ad from 1936. I sold it for $12.77, and a buyer in Rochester, New York, picked this up. So this is one of the ads that's going back to its hometown. This is something new I'm trying here, and the jury is still out about how successful it's going to be. But I took a notion just recently to try out some advertisements from TV Guide, and we'll see how the sales go. This is the first one that I've ever sold from TV Guide, and this is a back cover image, and you'll notice here in the detail that it's got a little bit of wear where it was bound. It got kind of crinkly here and lost a little bit of color, but overall, the image is nice. It's sundown in Marlboro Country, and I just, for the listing title, I called it Tropical Palm Trees Sunset Cowboy from 1963. This sold for $10.77, and it's on its way to California. This ad here sold within 2 weeks of listing, and I had several messages and a lot of watchers on this in that short amount of time. It ended up that a buyer from Australia came in and scooped it out from under everybody else for $8.77. It's an ad for sandalwood oil from the Mysore government, Mysore being in India, and the agents for the United States and Canada is W.J. Bush and Company Incorporated. They deal in essential oils. They have offices in New York, Chicago, National City, California, and Montreal. Going back to the first page, you might notice that in the title of the listing, I put National City, California, just because I have a lot of shoppers from California. I thought that might catch somebody's eye. This time it didn't sell to California, though. It went to Australia from Drug Markets Magazine, 1931, $8.77. Y'all know me by now. I can't leave well enough alone. I've got to go and read things. And when I said out loud verbally that Mysore is part of India, something just told me to go and double check that. And when this ad was published in 1931, Mysore was not actually part of India. It was called a princely state. And it was actually, like the rest of India, part of the British Empire back at the time. And when India gained independence from Britain in 1947, that change did not include Mysore. They continued as a independent government, India, subject to British rule until 1955. But a pretty place. They've got beautiful palaces and architecture, temples, uh, waterfalls, some modern looking things, churches, and fountains, and just all kinds of nice things to see. Mysore looks like a nice place, but had to correct that. It wasn't part of India at the time. It is today. Here's an ad that I think is real neat. Volkswagen ads in the 1960s are just darn cute. They have a very self-effacing kind of way of uh, advertising their product. Their humility shows. And I'm going to read the bottom part of this page here and show you what I'm talking about. Down at the bottom, it says if you refuse to drive a Volkswagen because it's ugly, we can't help you. If you refuse to drive a Volkswagen because you have 8 kids and it isn't big enough, you have our sympathy. If you refuse to drive a Volkswagen because it isn't fancy enough, that's for you to decide. But if you refuse to drive a Volkswagen because you're used to an automatic transmission, listen carefully. And they go on to describe their new feature, which is called a automatic stick shift. On over on the right side, though, it says, up at the top of the right side, it says you'll use nary a drop of water or antifreeze, and that's because Volkswagen engines were air cooled, not water cooled, like 95% of other motors in cars on the market. So it says, just because we've made the Volkswagen easy to drive doesn't mean we're about to make it any prettier, any bigger, or for that matter, any fancier. So we imagine some people will still refuse to drive Volkswagens. You can't win them all. And that's a line that I saw in several other Volkswagen ads that I've listed. You can't win them all. And basically, they know this car is not for everybody, but they kind of make light, make fun of it. And it's just, like I said, darn cute. Back on the front page here, though, $16.77. It was in Look Magazine 1968, and I sold it to a shopper in Nebraska. Here's a movie advertisement from 1947. The movie was called The Late George Apley, and this ad appeared in Life magazine, like I said, 1947. In the details here, it's kind of racy because it says there's a quote apparently from the movie that says, "Stop apologizing for sex, George Apley. You didn't invent it." And it says it's a delightful story of Mr. Apley of Boston who learned about life from fresh and provocative Peggy Cummins. And so Peggy Cummins down here in the corner, it says she was voted Look Magazine's best bet for stardom in 1947. So she was an up and coming actress. And the movie was directed by Joseph Mankiewicz. I thought he may be related to the Ben Mankiewicz, the movie journalist that does the Turner Classic movie intros. I couldn't find any family connection there, though. But anyway, this was a 20th Century Fox movie from 1947. I sold this ad for $12.77. It's on its way to Florida. This is a small ad from 1953 for the Saniflush toilet bowl cleaner, the Hygienic Products Company. And this was in a Quartermaster Review magazine, 1953. Looking at the detail here of the ad, um, it says available under purchase notice agreement number 49-104-178. So basically that tells quartermasters, what they need to know to buy this for their military toilets and latrines and heads and whatever else you want to call a bathroom in the military. Here's a picture that shows the small size of the ad. It was 4 inches by just slightly over 5. So this is in the category of the smallest ads that I sell. But where it has the tie into the military community, I added just a couple of extra dollars as a premium. $10.77 is the price I charged. This ad is going back to its hometown of Canton, Ohio. This next sale is actually not an advertisement. It's just a vintage magazine print. And as you know, I sometimes just pull some of the magazine content out and put it up for sale along with the ads. This caught my eye because these colors here just put me in mind of Frederick Remington, the popular painter of the Southwest and um, Western America. These pink cliffs and the pastel hues of the desert sands and grasses and things like that. These Indians here are roping wild horses. The title of it is In a Bad Fix. And in this other picture, the bottom left-hand corner of the print says that it was painted by W.R. Lee. And if I didn't say it before, it ran in Pictorial Review 1927. So it's about 3 years shy of being a true antique print. There it is. Right here, it says this is courtesy of the Babcock Galleries, New York, where I would guess that the original painting hangs. But it's just really nice. Some of these things that are just magazine prints, I don't charge shipping on, and I didn't in this case. So after my postage and packing materials and eBay fees and expenses come out, I'll probably only net about $3 or $4 on this. That's fine with me. A buyer liked it, and when they get it, I know they're going to love it. So $16.77 sent this to Colorado. Here's an advertisement for the Vultee Aircraft Corporation. They produced the Vultee Vanguard. The airplanes they made were pursuit aircraft and trainers and bombers. And like I said, Vultee Field, California was their primary location. They had plants in Nashville, Tennessee, and also they were connected with the Stinson Aircraft Corporation of Wayne, Michigan. But anyway, here's just a beautiful image of one of their aircraft here. This ran in Fortune magazine 1941. I sold it for $21.77, and through the eBay global shipping program, it's on its way to Denmark. This next sale, also not an advertisement, just a vintage magazine print. This one from 1962. It ran in House Beautiful magazine. And all it is a white Christmas tree. The baby is looking at the ornaments there. And it's those mirror type ornaments. I think some people call them like mercury ornaments. Maybe there was actually mercury in the production of these ornaments up until they discovered the danger of that. But anyway, these reflective, shiny Christmas balls look good on that white tree. It's got kind of a blush pink color to it, and it's real pretty. Now, this one was listed more recently, so I did apply a shipping charge to this one. The ad sold for $16.77 with a shipping charge, and it's on its way to New York. I'll try to move through these next six ads at a little better clip because they're all going to the same repeat buyer, and the destination is Missouri. This first one is for a Knapp Monarch Chefster home deep fryer. It's an automatic electric deep fryer, and it's from the Saturday Evening Post, 1952. 1077 is the price this fetched. This second ad to that buyer is for neat hair remover for smooth hairless skin. When you look at the detail here, it looks like this model here is concerned about hairy arms. And down at the bottom, it says that the Neat Company has a deodorant product as well. So ask your dealer about that. It's a small ad, 2.5 inches by roughly 7.5. So it's 1/2 in height of 1/4 of the width of the McCall's magazine that it came from, 1927. I sold it for $10.77. It's on its way to Missouri too. The third ad to that same buyer, this one is a more modern full color, full page ad. The others were older ads. This one from 1969 appeared in Look magazine. And when you look at the detail of this ad, it just says that what's on the outside is only part of the story. And it shows basically the cutaway can and the amber cold beer with the foamy head inside. And it just talks about the quality of the product. Budweiser, the king of beers. This one sold for $12.77. The fourth ad to that buyer, this one from Time Magazine, 1946. This ad tells the story of how this young wife got her husband a raise because she made some biscuits that were packed in a Bemis Brothers bag with a Delta Seal system that kept the flour fresh and made the biscuits light and fluffy and all of that. So a lot was riding on those biscuits. Um, it says that the company made cotton, paper, and burlap bags based in St. Louis, Missouri, but plants throughout the country. And it goes into some detail about what that Delta Seal system is. This ad sold for $16.77 on its way to Missouri. Now, considering that this buyer seems to like a wide variety of different types of ads, it surprised me. This one, number five, and also number six coming up, are very similar, though. Same company, same source magazine, different months of the year. Specifically, Woman's Home Companion 1936. But this first one for the Magic Chef gas range made by the American Stove Company. This lady says Mrs. Modern is proud of her kitchen, and here she's showing off to her friend, and she's got a Magic Chef oven, and it says to modernize your kitchen, start with the gas range. Over here, it just talks about a lot of the different features of that gas range. And this is the first of two. Like I said, this one sold for 1877 going to Missouri. And number six here shows Miss Modern again, and she's on her way to go shopping for a gas range. And it says there's pertinent points on buying a modern gas range. So the point of this ad is to educate the shopper on the different features and give them an idea of what they should look for in a gas range and what all of these modern conveniences can do to save work and to save time. So again, American Stove Company, Magic Chef Series 2500, and down here it goes through all of those features again, just like the other one. It says, look for the red wheel when you buy a Magic Chef American Stove Company. This ad sold for 1677, and this is ad number six to that buyer in Missouri. This next advertisement is for Imperial washable wallpaper. And in the detail here, it shows you some of that crazy looking wallpaper. Those are nice colors. Those colors actually came back around maybe about 10 or 15 years ago with the pastel blue and white and on that chocolate brown kind of color. That was popular for a minute in recent years. But anyway, I sold this ad. It appeared in Ladies Home Journal 1952. I got $14.77 for the ad, and it's on its way to California. But that's not why I'm interested, or I should say, excited about talking about this ad. What I kind of focused in on or homed in on when I saw this was that button headboard on the bed. That's a 1950s thing, if there ever was one. It's the mid 20th century, and you could call it mid century modern. But there is a YouTuber down in Australia. Her name is Sage Lillyman, and she actually made a button headboard for her bed because her channel focuses on like the 1940s, 50s, and 60s, and she'll do like a day in the life of a 1950s housewife, and she wears vintage wardrobes. She talks about vintage makeup and vintage hairstyles and home decor from the mid-century and all of that kind of stuff. And it's a fun channel to watch if you just appreciate vintage, if you like the mid-century style. She does recipes, she bakes and cooks stuff that she's found in cookbooks from that era. It's just a lot of fun, and she's a cutie pie, so it's an enjoyable channel. And this is the first time I've ever recommended that you might want to watch something outside of this reselling eBay magazine kind of stuff that we talk about here. But if you like what we do here and what we talk about, then you might have an interest in vintage in general, and she's fun to watch. So I'll put a link to her channel up here, and you can check it out if you want to. Moving on to the next one. This is a really interesting ad from 1944. It's for the Travelers Insurance Company, and it goes into a lot of detail about the Ceylonese walking leaf insect. And in the ad here, you can see uh, how it has adapted to be camouflaged, and its different parts are a perfect mimicry of the leaves that it's on. Back there in the lower left hand corner is another one. But in the text here, it talks about how it has adapted over time to be safe. It talks about when the wind stirs the leaves that it's on, that it will kind of shimmy and shake like it's being shook by the wind as well, and all that kind of stuff. But here in the detail, it says that A wise man knows even the most efficient safety measures cannot make him secure. And for that wise man, you need insurance. So, this is all about selling some insurance policies, and it does it in a clever way. This came from National Geographic Magazine, again, 1944, $14.77 sent this to Illinois. Here is yet another advertisement for folding bicycles. I think this is the second one for a Bickerton bike that I've sold. The other brand was Hon or Hone, Hon. And this one is going to a repeat buyer. But folding bicycles in recent months, that's kind of an out of the ordinary thing. And I've sold three in recent months. So that's kind of neat to see. But this folding portable bicycle appeared in National Aeronautics magazine. It's made by Light Rider Cycles Limited in Lakeville, Connecticut, and this sold for $6.77. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. It's a very small ad, a little over 2.5 by not hardly 4 inches. And like we talked about before, this appears to be something that pilots can put on their aircraft, and when they fly to their destination, they can just pull out their folded bicycles out of their storage or luggage compartment on the aircraft and just pedal around town wherever they go, and then fold it back up, put it in the plane, and then fly back home. Kind of a neat concept here. Real cool to see. I sold this one to a repeat customer in West Virginia. The last sale of the week advertises U.S. Virgin Islands, St. Croix, St. John, and St. Thomas, and it appeared in Holiday Magazine 1970. And of course, the main point of this ad is this beautiful tropical paradise. And here's I guess mom, dad, and a little boy enjoying the surf there on the islands. But down in the detail here, it talks about the unspoiled and uncrowded beaches and all of that. But then it goes into some detail about finding cheap products made worldwide that you can find at a steep discount compared to stateside prices. And best of all, you can bring back double the number of luxuries plus 5 times as much liquor as any other vacation spot duty free. And so that's a way to, I guess, take the sting out of the price that you pay for, taking a trip and vacationing on the tropical islands. But a neat ad to see. $12.77 is what I charged, and it's on its way to Texas. All right, we'll move on to the bonus topic, which this week is called Sourcing Ads Successfully. And we're going to talk about some places where you can find magazines for sale that you can source ads from. Now, the way I've put this together, they're pretty much in order. In the first column, 1 through 3, are where you're going to find the best values on magazines. So let's take a look at that first. In this first category of low cost sourcing, think about friends and family. And I don't mean that you have to go and ask for magazines if you don't want to be perceived as a bum like I don't. But tell people what you're doing. Just tell people that you're on the lookout. And if they have old magazines, they'll be glad to pass them along to you. And as I've said before, magazine ads don't have to be vintage in order to sell. I see listed online frequently, I see ads that are less than 10 years old for certain products that sell. So, don't necessarily limit yourself to vintage. But a lot of times, people who subscribe to magazines, they don't think about what they're going to do with it after they've read it. But once you've spent money on something, some people feel like it's hard to throw something away that you've paid money for. So instead of tossing them in the trash or recycling them, they'll put them on a shelf or they'll stack them in boxes, and then all of a sudden they turn around and the boxes are in the way, or they want the shelves for other purposes. So people who are downsizing, empty nesters, people who are relocating for work. They don't want to pack them up and move them. And then you've got an older generation of folks who are thinking about the people who are going to have to make a disposition of their property after they're gone. They're thinking about maybe downsizing to simplify the process of disposing of their estates. So, uh, you know, do that with tact, but you can spread the word to those folks as well that you're interested in getting a hold of magazines. Next on the list is yard sales, and for the same reason that friends and family may be interested in passing along magazines, people who are holding yard sales are interested in disposing of things for the same reasons. And so you may find magazines at yard sales. And if you don't see them, always ask. It may have just never crossed their mind that somebody may have an interest in a box of magazines. And if you get some folks who are disposing of things like that in a yard sale, a lot of times you can get them at pennies per copy. Uh, Usually, always less than $1 a copy at yard sales for old magazines. So make sure to ask. As far as pricing goes, thrift stores are kind of the loose cannon in the market. You'll find the broadest range of prices from dirt cheap to outrageously expensive, and that's because they are employees. They're not in any way professionals in the market, and in some cases, they have an interest in trying to do the best they can for the charity that the thrift supports. In other cases, you've got people who realize that it is ephemera, it's delicate. In some cases, it may be brittle, and if it hangs out in the store long, it's inevitably going to be damaged and worthless. And so they may price it, at rock bottom. In this case, especially, and in some of these others that we'll talk about, over on the right side with the little asterisk by it, I put down networking. Network with your thrift store people and let them know that you have an interest in that. And they may not be able to discount it for you, especially, but their prices may be good in general. And they may want to get it into your hands before they have to put it out in the store and it get damaged there. So, uh, make sure that you tell the employees and managers of the thrift store that you're looking for magazines. A lot of times they will get word to you when something comes in before it ever hits the shelves. Just one more word about the possible reason why you may see overpricing on magazines at thrift stores. Those employees, they typically handle things that might be 5 or 10 years old. Clothing, glassware, dishes, knickknacks, decor, whatever it may be, is rarely very old. And if it is, they might not realize it's old. But on a magazine with the date printed right on it and it says 1954 or 1944, they're going to say, wow, this is really old, and they're just going to stick $20 on it when it might just be worth two. So just be aware that you may run into that. You can try to help educate those employees and managers so that you find better deals in the future, or you may just move on to the next store. Number four on the list is auctions. Auctions can be a great place to source vintage magazines. And I'm not talking about Sotheby's or Christie's or anything like that. I'm just talking about your neighborhood auction house in your rural communities, country auctions, and things like that. A lot of people show up at those auctions looking for housewares, useful items, decor, lawn and garden implements, tools, that kind of stuff. So just be aware that, ephemera shoppers might not necessarily be in abundance. You might not have a lot of bidding competition. And I've seen box lots of good magazines go for $1 or $2, at 5, 10 cents per copy, even at $1 a copy. Magazines sourced that way are going to be a great bargain. So don't overlook auctions. Number five here is estate sales. And I'm not going to try to explain estate sales if you're not familiar with them. There's literally thousands of other videos online. that tell you how to find estate sales and what to expect when you get there. I will say that in an online app where you can preview what's going to be for sale at an estate sale in your vicinity, there may not be pictures of magazines, even if there's going to be magazines available at that sale. Estate sale companies, a lot of times, just don't feel like magazines are worth the effort to preview. And so, if they have some kind of flashy title like the Life Moon Landing copy or the JFK assassination copy or something like that, yeah, they're going to show that. But 9 times out of 10, even if there's magazines for sale, you're not going to see them in the pictures. Instead, rely on pictures about the kinds of things that are available. If there's a lot of other vintage, then it's very possible that there could be vintage magazines or other ephemera there for you to see. The other thing, just be aware. I will tell you this about estate sales: first day prices are often full blown retail, or maybe even retail plus 20% for those collectors. The last day prices are, you can expect a lot of times 50 or 75% off. However, if you wait for last day prices, the magazines that you want might already be gone. But estate sales in general are a great place to source magazines. The best way to explain why you might find magazines at flea markets is because they were in one of these other types of sales and they went unsold. And so somebody just happened to pick up a whole bunch of stuff that included some magazines with other things. That, like at an estate sale, at the end of the sale, unsold things will either go to a thrift or they'll go to an estate sale clean out company that just comes and takes everything else out of the house. They send that stuff to flea markets or they send it to auctions or whatever. So things at flea markets likely went unsold somewhere else. That's why you can get great prices on them. It's very rare that somebody is going to source magazines specifically because they want to take a stack of magazines to a flea market. That ephemera, again, we've talked about it before. It's often brittle. It's subject to damage from getting damp. If it's windy, it can blow away or get damaged by the wind flipping pages or whatever. And so, for that reason, at flea markets, it's likely to be priced dirt cheap so that they can get rid of it, make room for other things on their tables. As we move to the right hand column here, we're talking about the pricier ways to source ads. Number 7 here, antique malls. And in that category, I include things like peddlers malls or uh, vendors malls, where maybe not everything is antique, but you get the idea. In those places, they understand that what they're selling there and the kind of store it is, they're going to draw customers who have an appreciation for old things, things with age, nostalgia. And so they know that a magazine is worth more than $1 or $2 per copy. They're going to price them at 5, 8, $10 per magazine or something like that. Now, when you compare that to free magazines from relatives or box lots where the magazines are a quarter a piece, that sounds like a whole lot of money. But when you think of it in terms this way, if you buy a $10 magazine that's got really good ads in it, and you can get 30 ads out of that magazine and put them up for sale on eBay, your net proceeds per ad, after all your expenses are paid and eBay fees and all of that, you may net $5 per ad. So that means that if you sell two out of that 30, you've made your money back, and then everything after that you net goes in the profit column. So is it worth it to buy a $10 magazine? Well, not when you can buy quarter magazines that are as good. But if the $10 magazine is a lot better than the quarter magazines, you may want to consider sourcing that way. So just don't write off antique malls and vendor malls because you can get some good material there. Number 8 here is eBay and other online places to buy and sell. I don't have experience with anything else in that category except for Etsy. At one time, not vintage print ads, but at one time I tried to sell some things on Etsy and it just was not friendly for listing, and I didn't have good traffic, and it was hard to use. So I just got back out of Etsy and didn't deal with it anymore. Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, and Mercari, and other ways to buy and sell online is a place where you can find magazines. But primarily, I'm thinking of eBay when I talk about this. Um, People who are selling magazines on eBay, um, they understand that they have a worldwide audience, which means prices can't get outrageous for magazines because they have worldwide competition. But at the same time, they understand that the audience of people who are looking for magazines that they have for sale is very large. So that helps boost the price a little bit. And so, for magazines that you could typically find in other places for, a dollar or two, they're going to be listed for 5, 10, $15 per copy on eBay. I've seen some titles of magazines sell for 25, 35, $50 a copy. I've bought some of those magazines before. And in a future video, sometime down the road, um, I will do a episode that I mentioned it before, but I'm going to title the episode "My Dirty Little Secret," and it's about sourcing magazines, and I'll disclose some things that I've done in the past that may surprise you. But enough of that teaser for now. Getting back to this. Lots of magazines on eBay. If you're thinking that you want a particular style or look or era in your store, it could be that eBay is going to be about the best place for you to source, even though you're going to have to pay a little bit more. You can be sure and get the content in your listings that you want your store to be about. So just be aware of that. Um, in some auctions of magazine lots, I've done really, really well and ended up with magazines for pennies per copy, even on eBay. So don't think it's always pricey. It's just that it's often going to be pricey. But anyway, that's a discussion of all 8 of the sourcing ideas. Now let's talk a little bit about networking. Now, I made the note here to talk about networking, and I mentioned it a time or two before. But that's something that you can do if you let people know that you're on the lookout for old magazines. With the exception of yard sales, I think probably networking it can bear fruit in all 7 of the other categories. Friends and family, let them know you're looking at thrift stores. Talk to the managers and employees, auctions, the auctioneer and auction company. Sometimes they may be willing to get magazines to you that they don't want to run through the auction just because they're heavy, hard to deal with, and a lot of times go unsold. Estate sales, especially, I've got to tell a story here. When I asked for magazines, I didn't see any magazines at an estate sale, so I asked. And when I asked the estate sale representative, she said, "Well, there's some magazines here, but we don't have them out. You're welcome to look at them." And it was adult magazines, and I've sourced and listed ads from them. We've talked about that. You got to be careful about what the content is, but uh, she said in the future, she said, if I run across anything like this again, can I call you? But she said, because we just don't put it out. But um, I said, that's fine. Let me know. And I've got actually 3 or 4 different lots of magazines from that company because they choose not to display that kind of thing in a sale. So, flea markets, a lot of times the folks that take things to flea markets have done estate cleanouts, and they have unsold magazines. They may not want to put them out for fear of damage. They're heavy, they're bulky, they're hard to do with, and they take up space that other things could use. Antique malls, look for magazines in booths where magazines look out of place. For example, if somebody has a lot of glass, a lot of decor, or if they looks like they specialize in some kind of vintage clothing, and yet you see magazines there, get up with that owner, because it's possible that magazines just end up in what they source by accident, and they don't really want to fool with magazines. Let them know that you're a person who will take those off their hands. And finally, network with eBay sellers. A lot of times you can get messages as soon as things go live. They will let you know, hey, you bought this before. I think it's a thing that you're interested in, and you might get the first dibs on something fantastic. So that's what I have to say about networking. Just do that and make life easier for yourself in the future. Now, as I always do, I'm going to close out with the recap screen where I summarize the weekly activity from the store. This past week, I sold 20 advertisements for a total of $287.40. I did not have any ads sold to a customer with a surname that matched the name of a company or the surname of a person mentioned in the ad. I did have 8 sales going back to their home cities where the company is located. I had 2 sales through the eBay global shipping program, and I had a total of 3 repeat buyers that accounted for 9 sales. And I forgot to point it out and mention it, but the white Christmas tree ad with the Mercury ornaments that went to a repeat customer. So a total of 3 repeat customers this week. And it was a fantastic week at Blue Feather Ephemera. Great seeing those sales pick up, and I hope yours are too. That wraps it up. Until next time, have a good week. If you enjoyed the video and want to see more content like this, please hit the like button, share it with friends, and subscribe to the channel. Also, leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time.